We had a good relationship. I kind of put that behind us and I didn't dwell on it. And I hadn't really thought of it in a long time. And we had a decent relationship. He was very, it's hard to say, he was very much in charge of the family, yet he was so shy around everybody else that it was hard for me to realize how shy he was. He had a lot of issues, and so he would always tell me what to do, and I was the only one in the family who would stand up and say, "You do it. Don't tell me what to do. Why don't you do something? Why don't you, you know?" So I pushed him more than anybody else.
As an adult?
As an adult, yes.
And as a child?
As a child, I let him bully me. I let him do whatever. He was 2 years older than me and bigger and stronger. And, yeah, it was, Nancy screams one more time, everybody gets spanked. It was his job to get me to scream. He would punch me in the stomach until he'd knock the wind out of me, and then I'd scream, and then I'd dig my nails into his arm. And I mean, he would torture me because he was getting tortured at school. And so his outlet was to take control of me.
Learn the ways of the goddess and accomplish much more with so much less effort. Welcome to Your Goddess Awakened with Halle Eavelyn, a show dedicated to helping you embrace your divine feminine and nurture your inner goddess for a radiant life. We invite you to join us every week to receive goddess wisdom that will help you through your current obstacles and lifelong traumas. Awaken the goddess within you and transform your business and your life, only here on Your Goddess Awakened.
Hi, I'm Halle Eavelyn, and this is Your Goddess Awakened. And on today's episode, I am so excited to have with me the beautiful and delightful Nancy Miller. Nancy and I have worked together in the past in a business standpoint. This is the first time we are going to be doing this kind of work together. So Nancy, I'm really excited to have you today. Thank you very much for being the first person to do this kind of work with me on the show.
Oh, perfect. I'm very excited.
Good. And I had put out a call to ask for somebody that wanted help, or people who want help with trauma clearing, since that's one of the things that I specialize in. And Nancy, you were kind enough to answer. I feel like I should give a little bit of an explanation about what trauma is. And, this is a good time to say that I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on TV. And for me, both with this work and with all of my coaching work, it comes to me very organically. The expression that I like to tell people is, it's like your soul talks to my soul and tells me what to tell you. And this type of work is no different. So my definitions of things are my definitions. They are not necessarily the clinical definitions. So when I think about trauma, it's anything that was an event in your life that has held you back in some way. You can't move forward to where you'd like to go because of this event or occurrence. It may be something that you revisit. However, my experience with clients is sometimes, like, you can identify it and you haven't revisited it since it happened because you really shut the door and you've been unwilling to open it up again. Now, obviously, when I'm doing like general client work, and a trauma comes up, sometimes it comes up from like, oh, like I had no idea that's what really, like I had no idea that was even blocking me. Sometimes I'll have a client who will say, oh, well, I'm here for this. And we get about a quarter of the way through and it's like, no, you're actually here for this. So I never know what these sessions are going to be like. And so I'm going to be really curious to see. I'm going to talk for a minute about just some basic kind of what I call rules of engagement that will help to create this and have this be like the best session that it can possibly be. So first of all, there's nothing off limits. If for some reason you feel too uncomfortable about something after the fact, we could always edit it out. for me, what is the most important thing is that you share only what you feel called to share. I rarely need to hear the details of anything. And if I need to hear a detail about something, I'll just ask. But for the most part, it's really not necessary to hear anything more than like the general framework of what happened. And then after that, I don't really know I don't know what direction we'll go in. The objective will be to clear the full trauma by the end of the session. And if not, remember, we're all onions. It's my job to get you to the core of the onion. At least we'll peel back several layers today. Okay? Okay, good. So what's our topic?
Getting rid of trauma.
Yeah. Like, what is it that you would like to help release so that you can move forward in your life?
Why I sabotage myself and don't always do what I need to do in my business. I sometimes sabotage myself and don't always do what I should be doing.
If you could point to one thing that caused you to show up like this in your life, what might that be?
So recently it's come to me that I think it might have been because my brother bullied me so much when I was younger.
Okay. How's your relationship with your brother now?
He's deceased.
Okay. So before your brother passed, were you able to heal your relationship with him to the point where you would have called it good?
We had a good relationship. I kind of put that behind us and I didn't dwell on it. And I hadn't really thought of it in a long time. And we had a decent relationship. He just, he was very, it's hard to say, he was very much in charge of the family, yet he was so shy around everybody else that it was hard for me to realize how shy he was. He had a lot of issues, and so he would always tell me what to do, and I was the only one in the family who would stand up and say, "You do it. Don't tell me what to do. Why don't you do something? Why don't you?" So I pushed him more than anybody else.
As an adult?
As an adult, yes.
And as a child?
As a child, I let him bully me. I let him do whatever. He was 2 years older than me and bigger and stronger. And, yeah, it was, if Nancy screams one more time, everybody gets spanked. It was his job to get me to scream. He would punch me in the stomach until he'd knock the wind out of me, and then I'd scream, and then I'd dig my nails into his arm. And I mean, he would torture me because he was getting tortured at school. And so his outlet was to take control of me. So
one of my observations with family members across multiple generations, like a lot of people that I talk to have been abused as children. And whenever we look back across the previous generation, and often they know like at least 2 generations back, that abuse happened to, they say the sins of the father are visited on the son, right? So what we see a lot of the time is that the child's response is to learn that bad behavior and then to visit it on their own children. And what I see a lot of times across parent-child generations where this is happening is that it's occurring as a substitute for love. So the child learns the wrong thing as love and then proceeds to push that wrong thing on someone else as love because they're not being given healthy love relationships. So for example, in this particular case, it's a little bit like too obvious that this would be the case, but imagine that your brother's getting bullied at school. He's experiencing friendship as giving and receiving bullying. So he turns around and does the same thing to you. So in other words, the idea is he's transferred his feelings of having friends, which would have been natural and normal, but the way that he's being treated in school is not natural and normal. So he's translating that idea of friendship into this sort of skewed relationship. And now he's over here doing the exact same thing with you.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does. I think, because, well, he also resented me. He liked being the only child, and he resented that I was born, and then my sister was born, and then another sister was born, and he got ignored by the parents because he was the oldest, and go play and go do
And
this.
were you the second oldest?
Yes.
So sort of like once you started, like you were the tip of the cascade of
Right.
him losing his place. Yeah. 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 So I'm not saying like he didn't bully you for very normal reasons. I am saying the fact that he was receiving bullying himself.
Yeah, I think when it really got bad is when I started school, because that's around the time that he started to get bullied at school. It was probably when I was around 5 or 6, and it was through grade school that I remember it being really, really bad. And in fact, I can even look at pictures of me. I was a very confident 5-year-old, and by 5th grade, I was a quiet, shy introvert who wouldn't brush her hair.
Oh, so, okay. So my next question to you is, have you forgiven yourself?
I think I have, yes.
Have you forgiven him?
Yes. Yes. Once I identified it, I think I did forgive him.
So if you've forgiven him,
And I understand he did the best he could with what he had to work with.
mm-hmm. Yes, he did, of course. I like to say everyone's always doing their best. It's just sometimes that sucks.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So if you've forgiven yourself and you've forgiven him, why is it still holding you back? And where do you believe that it's still holding you back?
I still don't feel like I'm good enough. Like
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So were you good enough in your other siblings' eyes?
Well, he used to gang up with my other sister, and they would pick on me.
Okay.
My
And
baby sister was wonderful.
How many other sisters do you have?
So I have 2 sisters, and he would go to the one just below me, and they would together pick on me. And
Okay.
I get she would, because it was self-preservation, right? I mean, it's her older brother, and yeah, okay, let's go pick on Nancy, and then they're not picking on me.
So have you forgiven?
That's who. No, well, I don't know if I have. Yeah.
So you don't know that you've forgiven that sister.
Right, and she's the only one that's still alive.
Ah, okay. And your youngest sister is also no longer. She passed as well. Okay. That's so hard to have lost all of your siblings you're relatively speaking a young woman to have had that happen. So I'm so sorry. And did you feel, but it's important that you understand there's nothing off limits here right now. So it's very important that you not feel like you can't say something or talk about somebody because of their memory or because it would be disrespectful to them, because this is like whole thing is between you and you. Okay. Right. So given your younger sister also not being with us anymore, when you were growing up, did you feel that she was a part of the solution, a part of the problem, a neutral person? Like, what was your experience with her?
She was more neutral, and I would feel guilty because sometimes I would turn them to pick on her just to get a break from me.
So you actually maybe have some self-forgiveness work there to do.
And actually, I have asked her for forgiveness before she passed.
Okay, great. That's her forgiving you. That's very good. And I'm sure she did forgive you, right?
Yes, she did.
Yeah. But it's not the same thing as you forgiving yourself.
Correct. And yes, I've always felt very guilty about that.
Uh-huh. So that
didn't deserve it.
And nor did you, right? She didn't deserve it. You didn't deserve it. Your older sister didn't. I mean, your younger sister, the second with the one just under you, didn't deserve it. And all of this stemmed from your brother, which all stemmed from somebody else bullying him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to share a really brief personal story with you because I have some experience with this myself. Is that all right?
Sure.
When I was 6 years old, I was an American girl in a German school in Germany. And there was this kid named Michael. I will never forget Michael. He was weak and he was picked on by everyone. And one day, my friends decided that I needed to beat Michael up after school. And so I told Michael I would be beating him up after school. And then after school, 6 years old, mind you, after school, everybody gathered around while I beat on Michael. And Michael said to me, "Why are you doing this? I thought you liked me." And I said, "I do like you. I like you very much." And yet I was just as much succumbing to peer pressure as anyone, right, under those circumstances. And that wasn't, a sister or a brother that I like lived with. That was just like some kid but I will never forget the look on his face and how I was beating on someone weaker than I was for the entertainment of people that I called my friends. And it's hard to even think about it today, even though I have done a ton of forgiveness work around it, because I was bullied too when I was, 3 or 4 years later, when I was 10, there was a kid that we just used to terrorize our entire neighborhood. He would bully everybody. But to be the bully, to be bullied, both it's awful. It's awful. And, I feel like we've had a lot of bullying brought to the fore over the last few years. Melania may not have done much with her Be Best campaign and her desire to show us to make bullying better. However, her husband did a beautiful job of making us understand how horrible bullying can be.
Yes.
So we all have we have two things that we're responsible here, and we're going to deal with this in two different chunks. So we're going to talk about this part because it's about forgiveness, and there's some forgiveness work that I can tell you haven't done yet. And then we're going to shift over into how this might affect your life and your current business situation, and so that you can be released from this kind of prison that you put yourself in, right? Because that's what we all do. We put ourselves in prison. And that's pretty much, what's happening in that moment. Okay. So the first piece of this is forgiveness. You've forgiven your sisters, but you haven't, and you asked your sister for forgiveness for bullying her. You feel that you have forgiven your other sister for bullying you. Right?
Well, I haven't probably so much. I don't know if I have forgiven her, but I've forgiven my brother. But
okay, so let's start there.
And I understand why she did what she did, but I don't know if I've really forgiven her.
Yeah. However, you really do understand because you had the exact same thing happen.
Right.
Like you were her, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's sit with that for a minute. Just close your eyes for a minute.
Because, my living sister is the one I don't have a good relationship with.
Your living sister is the one that you don't have a good relationship with?
Yes.
Okay. So is that because of how things have been between the two of you as she's gotten older and as you two have gotten older? Or is that something having to do with like how you were when you were growing up?
I've always tried to be a really good big sister. I even got her a date to her prom. I've always tried, and I've always felt she's always resented every time I've tried to help her.
This is really hard because this is something where it's none of your business to have that. Like that's her resentment is her business. It's not really about you. Right.
Right.
And yet we tend to take that on through guilt, shame, whatever. So do you think that she has led what you consider a successful life? I mean, does she have a family? Does she have work that she finds fulfilling?
Yes.
So,
and she's, So my baby sister, because they actually lived together for a few years, and my baby sister said she just doesn't get you. She doesn't understand you. She doesn't understand why you're so outgoing, because she's so not outgoing. And why I'll just blurt out and say things, and she's very guarded.
Yeah. And, you know, I have one sister and no brothers, and we were raised in the exact same household, but we are so different. And I used to say I was cup half full. She's cup half empty. She's actually gotten pretty cup half full as we've gotten older, but we definitely, like, we were in our 40s before we became friends. And, it's, you know, and I was always like, same house. Like, I don't like, really, I don't get it. But it's also like how old the person is when they go through the same stuff you went through. You know, they're younger than you, or they're older than you. They're experiencing it differently because of their ages. So it's important that you not don't take this on for yourself, because it's like her life, her journey is her path through the world. Your life, your journey is your path through the world. You can't live her life for her, right?
Right.
But
I'd like to be closer, because she is my only sister left. And
absolutely.
She's really close. And so her daughter looks just like me, and it pissed her off.
I don't have any children of my own. My sister has a daughter and a son. And when my niece was born, and when my niece became, like, you know, her own little person, my sister started saying, "Oh God, I didn't fix this stuff with you, and now I'm going to have to deal with it with my daughter, because she's, you know, got that same thing that used to bug me about you." So it's interesting, because the lessons are going to show up for your sister, whether it's through you or through her. So again, it's not really about you, right? So now, are you close with your niece?
No, she's actually autistic.
Oh.
And that's another thing. My sister won't admit it, and I actually said it to her, and she wouldn't talk to me for a year. Everybody in the family knows. Everybody knows she's very, very creative. She's very, very smart. But she doesn't do relationships. I mean, anytime they come over for a holiday or something, she goes straight upstairs to play games. We don't see her. She doesn't talk to anybody.
Yeah. So a lot of, I mean, they probably would say, like, on the spectrum or whatever.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah.
She's high functioning. I mean, she's definitely functioning.
Yeah. So, you know, that has nothing to do with you.
No, but it's tough to have a relationship with her, because she's tough to talk to.
No, I mean your sister.
Sister.
What's happened in your sister's life, what's happened in your sister's family, like, that's not about you. Right. Even if your sister wants to make it about you, or, you know, has that, like, energetic connection because you look like your niece, for example. Right. It's still not about you. This is her lesson to learn, her journey to, you know, to pass through. Okay. So let's go back to your older sister, the one who passed, the one that you didn't.
No, that's my baby sister.
I'm sorry. Your older younger sister is what I meant. Yes.
That's the one who's living with the two kids.
Oh. Okay.
My baby sister who passed and my brother who passed did not have any children. My sister was married. My brother never married.
Okay.
Even though he was well into his 50s when he died. He never married. He really didn't have any relationships.
Which is interesting as well, that he didn't have any relationships. Yeah, because relationships can hurt. You know, maybe that was a part of what happened with him. Yeah. So your older younger sister, the one who's still with you.
Yes.
You have not forgiven her and for bullying you.
Right.
And yet you did forgive her in so many ways, because the girl who finds a prom date for her sister isn't the girl who, like, hates her sister, right?
No. Right.
So close your eyes for a minute. And let's just Let's just take this now moment to connect and to call in Nancy's guides, Nancy's angels, Nancy's guardians, the Ascended Masters Advisory Council, the Magdalens, the Hathors. So grateful for this assistance. I'm so grateful for this guidance. I'm so grateful to speak the truth and to know the truth about Nancy. Just allowing. Releasing my word into the law, knowing that it is already done. So it is. So with your eyes closed, Nancy, take 3 deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. Just settle. Let go of any particular outcome, desiring any particular outcome. Desire only to know the truth. What is your sister's name, the one that you'd like to forgive?
Betsy.
So bring Betsy's face up in your mind's eye. Bring Betsy's face up. And do you see her as she is today or as she is younger?
No, as she is today.
Mm-hmm. And let's just ask Betsy, and you'll just repeat what you hear out loud. So let's just ask Betsy, why do you resent Nancy?
Because she's pretty.
Because she's pretty. Okay. Any other reason?
Because she's not afraid.
She's not afraid. Okay. And Betsy, are you afraid?
Yes.
Of what?
Love. She's afraid of love.
Because she wasn't loved?
No, she was loved, but she was a middle child.
It's never easy being Jan Brady, is it?
It isn't.
Yeah. So she was loved. Yeah.
Yeah. She was loved. And in fact, my dad went out of his way to make sure she knew she was special. Oh, that's it. Because I was Dad's favorite.
Aha. Okay. So, and it's hard because even if your father went out of his way, he didn't have to go out of his way with you.
Right.
So is that something that you ever realized before?
I've always known I've been Dad's favorite, but you know what? She took it really hard when he passed, and we all adored our father. And she resents me for being Daddy's favorite.
Yeah. And that means she spent her whole life wishing that she were you.
Yeah.
Which of course isn't possible. Like, we all have our lessons to learn. We all have our experiences to have. So now that you know that, you also know why it wasn't only her own self-preservation that caused her to bully you. It was also her being mad and resenting you for something that is basically an energetic relationship. If your father went out of his way to show her that she was loved, but he had to go out of his way, whereas he didn't have to with you, that would be enough. None of which is your fault. None of which is even his fault. No. People just interact with and energetically exchange with people the way that they do. Mm-hmm. And, maybe you spent more time in his soul group than she had.
Well, I was also his first daughter.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Could be something very normal like that as well. Absolutely.
That, and I'm most like my mother, and he admires my mother.
Hmm.
Because my mother is, I'm the one that's artistic, I'm the one that's outgoing.
Hmm. So there's a lot to admire there, artistic and outgoing. However, when you remember from some of the coaching that we've done together, the idea of some of that for me, please, that when you want something that somebody else has, that you draw it to you by saying some of that for me, please, as opposed to saying, well, they have that and I don't, which pushes it away.
Right.
But your sister has spent a lot of time pushing it away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So now that you know the truth about her, that she was burdened by never being your father's favorite, that explains a couple of things, including why she's still holding on to what you thought were old childhood resentments.
Yes.
It's not a childhood resentment at all. It's a pain that she's carried her entire life.
Mm-hmm.
So, knowing that what you know now, are you willing to forgive her?
Yes.
And are you able to?
Absolutely.
So, out loud or to yourself, just say your forgiveness to her.
I forgive you, Betsy.
And is she willing to receive that forgiveness?
I'm not sure.
So, in your mind's eye, as you bring her up, as you see her face, ask her, are you willing to forgive me?
Are you willing to forgive me? She is.
Good. And now I want to invite you to ask her to forgive you for being your father's favorite.
Forgive me for being Daddy's favorite. Yes.
Because there was nothing that you could do about that, right?
No.
And you're willing to forgive her for acting like that for your entire life. Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Because it's not your fault that you were outgoing or artistic or pretty or any of those things. Those are the gifts we showed up with. And I'm sure she has her own beautiful gifts, whether she recognizes them or not.
She does.
Yes.
She's always been more popular than me.
The grass is always greener.
I know.
All right. So, do you feel complete with her?
I do.
And in your mind's eye, if you want to give her a hug, please do. And now I'd like to invite you to bring your brother's face up. Do you see him?
I do. And he was the age he died, and then he reverted to when he was 10.
Let's go with that because there's no wrong. We go with whatever spirit says. So there's no wrong way about this. Okay. So see him when he was 10. He's all full of piss and vinegar. That's what my dad would say. But it's a facade, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And underneath is a sensitive boy child not allowed to be sensitive by the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
We solve our problems with our fists, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, are you willing to forgive him for bullying you?
Yes. Yeah, I forgive you, Daddy.
And is he receiving that forgiveness? Good. Now, is there anything else that you want to say to Danny?
I know you did the best you could.
Yeah. And is there anything that Danny would like to say to you? What's he telling you?
He's proud of me.
He sees you as a success. Yeah. It's great. So let's bless Danny and send him on his way. You can see him again anytime you want. And now bring Nancy up. Nancy at that age. Can you see her?
Yeah.
Tell me one thing she's wearing.
A brown dress.
Okay. Now, is Nancy a bad person?
No.
Then why would she bully
Maggie.
Maggie?
Because she couldn't handle getting bullied anymore.
Okay.
And it was a deflect.
Okay. Are you willing to forgive Nancy?
Yes.
Maggie's already forgiven Nancy. But it's important that you forgive Nancy. And for not standing up when Danny bullied you as well. Are you willing to forgive her for that?
Yes.
Good. Good. Ask little Nancy if there's anything that she would like to tell you.
She just wants to be loved.
Your mom has passed?
No, Mom's still here.
Okay. However, little Nancy lives inside of you always. And little Nancy needs a new mom who will love her all the time, be there for her all the time, make her feel safe all the time, which your actual mom wasn't able to do for you. Because you got bullied anyway, even though she was there, right?
Well, yeah, there's 4 kids.
Right. I mean, it's not her fault, absolutely. But the reality was that little Nancy didn't feel safe. And you, if you are willing to accept it, could be Nancy's new mom and could make sure that she always felt safe. Are you willing to do that?
Yes.
Would little Nancy like you to be her new mom?
Yes.
So ask little Nancy right now to tell you 3 things that she'd like to do with you so that she will feel safe and loved.
She wants a hug.
Okay.
She wants ice cream.
That happens a lot. Lots of ice cream for this. All our little girls want ice cream. It's beautiful. Yes. And what's something else?
And she wants to be the only child.
So she is now
Yeah.
a child, isn't she?
Yes.
Funny. Yeah. Also, she told me she wants to play jacks. Did you ever play jacks when you were a girl?
Yes.
That was actually the first thing I heard was she wants to play jacks. Okay. So you can tell little Nancy that you are going to be her new mom, that you're going to take her out for ice cream, that you're going to play jacks with her, that she is your onlyest child, and you can give her a big hug. And as you give her a big hug, feel her absorbing back into you until it's just you and you in the room. And then come on back, and when you're ready, gently, gently open your eyes. When you're ready, in your own time. So you get to hang out with little Nancy from now on and take care of her. So we all have this little girl that lives inside of us. And usually our little girl has been neglected from the time that we are 10 years old, or sometimes 6 years old, or sometimes even younger. And we've forgotten about her, but she's inside of all of us. So it's great to bring your little girl in when you're doing the things that she wants to do. So literally, it's the only other time I've ever heard jacks, but my little girl likes jacks. So I have a whole set of jacks up on my shelf that I bring down. Sometimes I will sit on the floor and I will play jacks, and that is my reward to myself.
Wow. I haven't played jacks in forever.
Right? I haven't since I was 10.
With my son. I don't even think I've played them with my son.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you play, when you feel like it, like go to a, Five and Dime or whatever. I think they still have a couple of those, and get yourself a set of jacks. And then when you feel like it, just sit down and play jacks with little Nancy. And all you do is just tell her, hey, we're doing this together. This is for you. And she gets it. When you go out for ice cream the next time, it's, hey, little Nancy, I'm sitting down with you for ice cream. Like my favorite thing as a little girl was mint chocolate chip in a sugar cone from Friendly's. That was like a big freaking deal for me because I was on the East Coast. And so that was like a big deal. So just the other day, I had ice cream for the first time in 3 months, and I wanted mint chocolate chip. And as I was licking my cone, I'm saying like, little Halle, we're hanging out together. And that was a big, like, that's the thing, is to connect it energetically. Okay. And anytime you want, you can sit her in your lap, you can, bring her in, you can play with her, whatever it is that, like if there's anything that you remember that you like to do, like sometimes I will go play on a swing set. My girlfriend got me a beach cruiser, but it's a yellow beach cruiser. It's banana yellow. It's the color of my 3-speed bike that I got on my 10th Christmas. And she got it for me for Christmas a couple of years ago. And I ride that thing practically every day. I was on it today already. And it's just such a great thing because when I'm on my bike, I'm 10, right? Right. Wind in my hair and the feeling of the pedals. I have no idea how old I am in chronological years at that moment. I'm 10 as far as I'm concerned. So whatever it is that you feel like you're connecting with your little girl, that's the key here.
I had my first performance at 5, ballet. And that was my first happy memory because I had my parents all to myself.
So there was a lot of like jockeying for position in your family, it feels like. Yeah. 4 kids. So the forgiveness work that you did today, Nancy, is really important because you peeled back all the forgiveness layers from that. You'd like done about half the work before we did this session together, but now it's like you're completely cleared out. So the last piece of this is I want to talk about why this is so important. So you're on a show called Your Goddess Awakened, and here we are talking about forgiveness and talking about trauma and like, what's the point? Like, why is that important? But what happens with us women is we were once all girls, and girls were told by society over the last couple thousand years to be seen and not heard. If I started reading to you some of these quotes from biblical scholars and things like that, you would be like, your hair would stand on end, because it's things like how women are, their only value to a man is like, children and to cook for him, or children and sex, or, to be there for him entirely. And that has actually carried down into who we are as women today. So there was a time when your brother's bullying wouldn't have made a bit of difference. Your brother could have beaten you to death in the street and gone
Right.
on completely okay because of the fact that you were born with breasts. I mean, that's how bad it would have been at one time. And luckily, we haven't had to deal with anything that harsh. However, there is a piece of us when we have those hidden traumas where we haven't cleared it out, where we're not showing up fully. We're not showing up as the goddesses that we have the right to. So starting today, the invitation from the universe is, Nancy, you're a freaking goddess. You get to show up like that. And it's a beautiful thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's talk about the self-sabotage part in your business.
Mm-hmm.
So that self-sabotage says, I'm not deserving, I'm not worthy. Is it too much to make the direct connection and say that you didn't feel worthy because there was this piece underneath that said that you had treated your siblings badly and therefore you didn't deserve? Does that feel like the connection there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So go to a circumstance. Let's just kind of check in about this. Go to a circumstance where you self-sabotaged. Like what's the most recent circumstance that you can think of where you self-sabotaged?
Well, when I'm supposed to be calling clients and I play games.
Okay. So you are not the first realtor to tell me that story. Right. I worked with a guy a few years back, actually, who was a broker, and he was like, I don't know what his high score was on Minesweeper, but it was insane. And what we did was we shifted the idea of procrastination from the thing he was using to procrastinate. We shifted that to being his reward. So he set up that intention for giving himself a reward of the very thing that he was using to put off the stuff he was doing. So I want you to test this out for yourself.
Okay.
Tomorrow, I want you to do 15 minutes of those calls that you've put off.
Okay.
And then reward yourself with a game.
Okay.
And since you did use the G word, bring little Nancy in to play the game with you, because kids love games, right? So bring little Nancy in. Let's have her play the game with you. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Next, I also want to invite you to the next day, do it again. So your homework for the next week is to 15 minutes a day of the thing that you've been putting off. And now you're going to substitute the game from a procrastination. You're going to do the thing for 15 minutes and then you're going to reward yourself with the game. Okay. And then next week, you'll do it for a half an hour and then for an hour. But that's one of the things that you can do every day is you can do an hour's worth of those calls that you've been putting off for so long. By the way, you'll find that by the time you get to week 3, you're like, I got nothing to do. I got to look for new people. I've called everybody on my entire list, and that will be fine too. So, but for right now, let's start going from that one place to the other place by getting you in 15-minute increments and by bringing little Nancy in to reward you with her. Okay. To reward you at the same time as her. I mean,
right. Okay.
She isn't a reward for you. She is her own reward.
Right.
Okay. So how do you feel?
I feel good. I feel really good.
Good. Well, I'm sure that that's going to feel like a weight off of you. And the good news is that this work is really permanent. So when you you just have left it behind. So that's beautiful. Congratulations.
Thank you. This is awesome.
Excellent. I'm so pleased. Enjoyed this episode. I encourage you to send a message through to our show so that you can be considered to do trauma clearing for a future episode of the show as well. I would love to help you through whatever your personal trauma issue is, no matter how large or small. I've really seen and heard it all. It would be my honor to help you. And please check out all of our other episodes of Your Goddess Awakened. Blessings.
You have just listened to another enlightening and transforming episode of Your Goddess Awakened with Halle Eavelyn. We hope you enjoyed your time with us and join us again next time so you can continue your journey towards a full transformation. For additional resources and to learn more about working with Halle Eavelyn, visit halleeavelyn.com. Receive more, do less, and love your life. Only here on Your Goddess Awakened.